And for many of us, we have been hearing a lot about the great resignation and perhaps even also now the trending topic of quiet quitting. And I have a very special guest today on hashtag Savvy Social Saturday who is going to talk to us about the great career revolution, and that is Gary Sizemore. So welcome, everyone. My name is Olivia Vo. You're a Savvy Social Pro, and I love to know what is savvy about you. So please watch this video clip to share with us your Savvy acronym, and stay tuned for a special interview with Gary Sizemore talking about the great career revolution. So now that you know what the SAVVY acronym stands for, skills, attributes, values, victories, and young at heart activities, please write it in the comments. We'd love to get to know you in this manner. So please share with us what makes you savvy. So on to our guests. I would like to introduce to you our guest today for a hashtag Savvy Social Saturday Live with Gary Sizemore. Gary is a career ownership coach based in Pensacola, Florida. So before he got into coaching, Gary worked in the aviation industry for 40 plus years. Yes, can you imagine? 40 plus years. And he got started as a coach following the end of a consulting contract and the beginning of COVID. And that eliminated consulting for the most part. And because he saw such a need for people to really understand how they can control and take ownership of their careers, it started him on this path. And now he really loves positioning himself as a career ownership coach and helping you to discover all your possibilities, options, and dreams, and eventually owning your career. So let's bring on Gary and find out what else makes him savvy. Please welcome me. Please join me in welcoming Gary. Ta-da! Hello there, Gary.
Hi, Olivia. How are you today?
Fantastic. Happy Saturday to you.
Happy Saturday to you.
Excellent. So I love getting to know Gary. I think we go back like 2 years now. We met through Lunch and Learn Zoom Fridays. So big shout out to that group. And this is what we talk about, the long game of relationship building. I mean, it started off with one networking event, a couple phone calls in between, and you were really instrumental also for me during that period of transition during COVID, with
Yeah,
helping me to, realize I was in a burnout phase and helping me to navigate that. So thank you, Gary.
I remember those days. I remember the way that you were back then. And it's great to see how you've come this far. That's wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So our topic today is about this great career revolution. So many of you may have heard, these terms, especially on LinkedIn, right? We talk a lot, we see a lot of posts about the great resignation and quiet quitting, but you have a different standpoint on this. You are involved with the Entrepreneur's eSource and the great career revolution. So can you tell me a little bit about that and kind of your
Right.
insights into this phenomenon that we're seeing?
Yeah. And there's been several iterations, if you will, as we went through that whole period of time and that kind of thing. And, it focused on changing your career and some things like that. But each iteration had its own special thing. And it didn't really touch, I don't think, everyone. And so we have come out with a new book. It is called Your Career Revolution, and it's a reimagine and reclaim the life of your dreams. And that kind of took it to the next level, so to speak. So now we're looking at it as almost a revelation, a revolution rather, that people are going to reinvent themselves and reinvent their careers. And what does career mean? and those types of things. So it's an interesting transition. A lot of the information is the same, but it's an interesting spin and an interesting look at how we own our careers. And I am a career ownership coach, but that doesn't mean necessarily that I'm going to have you own your own business or anything like that. I just want to work with people to help them own what it is that they do, control their destiny a little bit, and some of those kind of things. So that's more about what I do and what the career revolution is all about, in my opinion.
I love it. Thank you. And I was really at a crossroads, as I'm sure many of your clients are, with figuring out like what's our next move, what's our next step.
Right.
What were some of the top 3 concerns you would say from working with clients during that particular COVID period?
Um, One of the biggest things that we all face are fears. And during COVID, that was pretty highlighted because people really didn't know whether there was going to be a future or whether there wasn't going to be a future. And so we focused on those fears a lot. And we have an acronym for that. Fear can be real, and we realize that it can be real. But the first question that we ask is, how do you know that to be true? And when you look at something and you say, I can't do that, or, oh, that's not real, ask yourself that question. How do I know this is true? If you've got good, solid data that says it's not true, that's probably a good thing to know that it's not true. On the other hand, if you can't answer that question as, yes, I know it's to be true because, maybe it's just false evidence appearing real. And so the false evidences appearing real are those things that kind of get us stuck, keep us from doing those things that we should or could be doing, and those kind of things. And that was, again, something that was really prevalent during COVID, still relevant today, but it was really, really, really relevant during that time.
Yes, I love our acronyms. So S.A.V.V.Y is an acronym for this show, and you've just provided a great one for fear, false evidence appearing real. And I
Yes.
think, what really helped our session is that you introduced a whole new acronym for me on I.L.W.Y. So let's bring up I.L.W.Y. and talk a little bit about that because you've made a little slide here. 1 second
Sure.
here. I'm trying to figure out which was the correct setup that we had.
Sure.
So I think this is it. Yeah. So I.L.W.Y. Was instrumental in helping me shift from my employee mindset, Gary. And these are the questions that you asked me. So can you walk us through them?
Sure. I.L.W.Y. is something that we talk a lot about, and I.L.W.Y. has changed a little bit over even the last couple of years. We've seen that, we've noticed that, but the I in I.L.W.Y. stands for income. And I know everybody has a number that they see for their income, but do you really understand what that income is? And so we do some exercises. We talk through that. We do some exercises. Do you keep a good accounting, so to speak, of all the money you spend in a month? If you do, have you added things like your emergency fund, charitable donations, discretionary spending, and things like that to your budget? If you haven't, think about that because those things need to happen as well. And then once you know that number for the month, multiply it by 12, and that's what you need for a year, right? That's a good starting place for your income. The second part of income is, what is it that makes me feel valued? Okay. If I take a job, I get a job, they're going to pay me a certain amount of money. But if I don't feel valued at that, it's not going to be very long before I'm unhappy with that job that I've got because of the income. The second one is lifestyle, and this has become more important now than ever. And what is that lifestyle that you want to achieve? Do you want to work 40 plus hours a week, paycheck to paycheck, just to pay your bills? Or do you want to have something better? And I offer people as an exercise, when you're sitting quietly, close your eyes and think about what you want on any given day in the future. What do you want that day to look like? And when you can answer that question, you can tell yourself a little bit more about that lifestyle that you want. Wealth is the W, and we look at wealth a little differently. Wealth is not just having money in the bank. Wealth is the money that we put back for those times when we decide we want to stop working or we can no longer work, retirement, so to speak, and those kind of things. But we don't just look at, hey, retirement age is 65 or 67 and a half or whatever. We look at, when do you want to retire, and how much money is it going to take for you to live the lifestyle you've grown accustomed to beyond that period of time. And then finally is equity. Equity is any of those things that have a value, your house, your cars, all of those kind of things. And that value can be used as a strategy to rebuild your wealth if the amount of wealth that you have doesn't carry you through the end of your life. So you can trade those equity items for wealth and continue living the same basic lifestyle that you've grown accustomed to. And we see a lot of things in that. People are living longer now. Potentially, those things aren't adding up to what they need to be, but we're also more active in our retirement. People don't sit on the front porch, read the newspaper in a rocking chair. People are out. They're going on vacations. They're going on cruises. They're playing tennis. They're playing golf. All those things have an expense related with them. So you need to make sure that your wealth portion of that covers those expenses as well.
I love this so much, Gary. And, you mentioned the quiet reflection. So not only the quiet reflection, but just a discussion and having a live discussion with a coach was really beneficial, because it's nice to write these things down. But, in order to work with you, just to kind of talk up these ideas and then providing direction was so beneficial too.
I'd use some worksheets, and some of this stuff are the things that we talk through. And most of my clients tell me when I talk through it, I have a better understanding and it means more.
It means more. Exactly. Yes, that's exactly it. And I would say, just in discussing with you, because even before we formulated the ILWI, you had me take a couple of assessments, like the DISC assessment, which was like very, very helpful, because you got me to see some of the skills that I thought were like, technical skills, hard and soft skills couldn't be transferred to new business, but you got me to see that no, like these are transferable in many different ways, and even matched me up with some opportunities I didn't know was possible. So, for example, I love estate sales. I shop estate sales. I also help organize estate sales. And who knew that there was a business model based on estate sales? So that was just like, wow, such an eye opener. And just even knowing that possibility was so exciting.
Sure. And there's all kinds of things out there. A lot of people don't truly understand that those options are available to them because they've never looked into it. And having someone who can help guide you in a manner that's beneficial for you. And what I mean by that, you can go to an expo, and when you walk in the door, you're probably going to get swamped with people who are going to try to give you the deal of the day on a business. Instead of that, wouldn't you much rather go through an educational process to learn everything that you want or need to know about that business before you choose to move forward or you choose not to move forward? And either one of those is okay, but it's all about the educational experience and not the emotional experience, so to speak. The emotional experience keeps us on that career roller coaster, so to speak. I jump at something, first shiny object that comes along, I grab that object only to find out it's not really what it was supposed to be when I grabbed it. And so a few months down the road, now I'm back on the roller coaster, going back down again and trying to come up with the next thing that I want to do for my career. We want to keep you off of that roller coaster. That's taxing, tiring. You don't want to be on that roller coaster.
Yes, shiny object syndrome recovery right here. Excellent. And although, I'm still in the exploration phase with you, right? And because there's always something new that I'm looking to get involved in. However, I have to say, like, your coaching has indirectly really impacted how I've done my business. Now I start factoring in like my income and how that looks, and the lifestyle and wealth and equity portions of it. And, just adapting that to what I'm doing now with, books and live streaming, etc. So it's
Yeah,
given me structure, which is much needed in a business.
absolutely.
Yeah. And I also have had, because of your coaching too, both my husband and I have been willing to take those little risks, right, into exploring some other passive income opportunities outside of our careers. And so
Well
that,
educated and well mitigated risk is the answer there.
yes, well educated and well mitigated. Exactly. Doing our due diligence, right?
Right. There you go.
Excellent. And so there's another component of your coaching too. So let me bring up that slide as you talk about that, the possibilities, options, and dreams.
So when I talk with clients, I spend a lot of time talking about these three items, mostly about dreams. And people understand they have dreams, but they look at their dreams as something that's not achievable. And that should never be the way you look at your dreams. Anything you dream is something that's possible if you put the effort toward it. But we talk about possibilities, options, and dreams. And when we ask people basic questions, would you like to steer your own ship? Would you like to control your own destiny, or at least take full ownership and control of your career? About 95% of the people say yes, absolutely, but they're not willing or they don't know how to get started doing that. So you can do all of those things by understanding what your possibilities are, what your options are, and by following your dreams. So if we look at it that way, each of us inside ourselves has the ability to do this. It's just a matter of taking that first step. The first step is always the hardest. We live in a comfort zone, right? Anytime you step out of that comfort zone, you're going to be a little bit uncomfortable. And we want to focus on temporary discomfort versus long term discomfort. But each time you step out of that, your your base grows and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So now I can do more things and not be uncomfortable because it's things that I know will work for me if I try it. So we focus a lot on those kind of things.
Fantastic, Gary. Thank you so much.
Sure.
And people may be wondering, oh my gosh, like this coaching sounds phenomenal. Like, how do I get to work with you? What is the coaching relationship like? Like, is there a fee for engaging with this coaching?
I don't charge my clients anything for what I do. Now, the first part of my coaching, we're going to take that inward look. We're going to find out about you. And that's designed to help you understand yourself better, as well as help me understand you a little better. If I understand you better, hopefully I can help you better, guide you better, all those kind of things. But we're going to do that. And I'm going to invest in you some. Okay. I don't charge you for those assessments or anything like that as well. But you can get an opportunity to go through that and then we'll talk about all that stuff. I don't give busy work. So if I ask you to do something, we're going to talk about it. Right. And then beyond that, that's when we choose a path that we want to go down. And along that path, we'll go down that path and open whatever doors you want and see what's behind them. I spend about an hour a week or so with my clients, and we can speed that up, slow it down depending on my calendar. But again, I'm not charging you anything for that. My time is free to you, but it's also valuable to you. And what I mean by that is I'm going to hold you a little bit accountable to showing up for meetings that we set up, be there, be on time, and be ready to talk and work and do those things that we need to do so you can be a better you and have the career that you really want to have.
Yes. So Gary means business.
It's fun, not hard.
But like we said earlier, it's just being able to give it meaning, right? Like we can reflect and journal and answer these questions on our own, but to give it more meaning, it really helps have an outside perspective. And what I love about working with Gary is that Usually I've been working with male bosses for a very long time, and I've never had a really good relationship with male bosses per se. But Gary's manner has been just so supportive that you've helped me really change that around. Because normally I think I gravitate towards female coaches, but I really wanted to work with someone that was going to give me like a grounded sort of like business perspective too. And with your 40 plus years of aviation, I mean, you clearly know structures and protocols and processes, which is what I was really missing.
Sure.
So thank you so much, Gary. And I had to ask you to fill out your S.A.V.V.Y acronym, and you had mentioned that it was really hard to come up with the S.A.V.V.Y acronym in the beginning. It was quite a challenge for you, but finally you were able to come up with something. And I can attest to all of these things that Gary has written about for his S.A.V.V.Y acronym. He is very skillful at helping others, and he's reliable as a coach. He's reliable, punctual, will hold you accountable, all those things. And he really values service to others, which I see. I see it in your heart and in your manner. And I think one of the things that's really interesting is that when you commented on Victories, you really have enjoyed meeting new people and hearing all their great stories.
Sure. Everybody has a story. And one thing about Savvy, as well as some of the other things that we do, there's two ways to look at things. We can put ourselves out there in a way that we think we want people to look at us, or we can put ourselves out there the way we really are. And it's really important for you to be true to yourself as you go through these things and put yourself out there. It may not be the best picture in the world, but if you improve it, all the better, right? So keep that in mind too. And we talked about that in some of the assessments that we do and things. Don't game the system, because if you do, it's not going to be beneficial for you to understand yourself.
Yes, I love that. Put yourself out there as you truly are. And everyone does have a great story to tell. And we just, that's the benefit of even just having an intro call with Gary. It might not go further, but at least you have that intro and discovery call and exchange stories of how you got to where you are. And then lastly, for your young at heart activity, you mentioned walking the dog every night. So I love that.
Yep, I've got my little female down here. She was a rescue dog, and she's in my office every day. Sometimes she gets a little noisy, but not too bad. And we try to walk every night unless it's raining or storming or something like that. And, that helps me, that helps her. So it's a beneficial relationship there.
Indeed, wonderful. And lastly, Gary, who would make a savvy match for you? I know that you could probably work with lots of different types of people, but specifically, who would you love to work with? Kind of what stage are they at to be working with you?
Pretty much anybody, and anybody who wants to look at the new possibilities of what they may have available as a career. But I also want to do a couple of things. Number one, I want to talk with people who are open to those possibilities, not people who are so rigidly set on going one direction and doing only one thing. If that's the case, I probably can't help that much. But if you're open to those possibilities, then I'm all in to talk with you about those possibilities and see where it goes. There's never an obligation. I'm not going to try and sell you anything or anything like that. But keep in mind, I'm not a recruiter either, so I don't have jobs to fill waiting for you to go into. So my ideal person is someone who, for whatever reason, is looking for a new career, actively, passively, doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter that you're working, doesn't matter that you're in a job search. If you want to try something new, something different, something that will help you potentially, then let's talk.
Yes, that is your first decision to be willing to be open to possibilities and just talk it out with someone. Gary always says we take it
Absolutely.
one step at a time.
And the first step is always the hardest. It gets easier after that.
Excellent. And then one thing I also really appreciate too, Gary, is that you've allowed us to take breaks. There have been times when life just happens and circumstances change, and you allowed to take a break or a pause in the
Sure.
process. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah. And pause means that I don't close any doors. The doors are always there for you to open and come back, even if it's just to ask a question or bounce an idea or something like that. But sure, we'll talk again and see what your thoughts are, and maybe you are ready to go forward again.
And by the way, Gary's an awesome referral partner. I mean, you have introduced me to really some remarkable people on LinkedIn and in person. I got to meet a colleague here in Jacksonville through you, Jamila Rouse, and she was able to contribute a chapter to one of my books. So
Oh,
thank you, Gary.
sure.
Yeah, and we're constantly referring members to each other. So I love that. I love that very much. So there you have it. This has been another edition of hashtag Savvy Social Saturday with the Gary Sizemore, your career ownership coach. And this is what it's all about, the long game of relationship building and the long game of networking on LinkedIn, and all of which you can read about in this book here, Ready, Connect, Grow. And it has included my chapter, The Building Blocks of LinkedIn Relationships. And Gary, why don't you show up your book again, The Career Revolution? There it is to you. So Gary, if we wanted to get a copy of that book, how do we get that?
Anybody can reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to send you a book. I'll need your email address and your address, of course, and I'll send that out in the mail to you.
There you go. You can get a copy of the latest book, Your Career Revolution, and be a part of this entire movement. So be sure to connect with Gary's LinkedIn and send him a message and let him know that you saw him on the Savvy Social Saturday Live. Thank you so much, Gary, for being on here with us. It's always a pleasure to speak with you and see what you're up to.
Thank you, Olivia. I really appreciate it.
Excellent. All right, we're going to close out, and I will see you all next time for another fabulous episode. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.